you move on to the next subject? Because I think sometimes you've actually taken advice about who you should, or listened to. Somebody suggested, which it didn't occur to me that might be the case. Can you explain?
Very, very much so. Very, very seldom have an idea of my own. Sounds bad, but I'm here to be honest. One time, for example, the wonderful Bugatti racing driver, Hellé, born Hélène de Langres, it was literally a case of a friend coming to stay for my birthday and holding up a book like this and saying, this is who you're going to write about. And on the front of the book was a picture of this wonderful woman sitting on the bonnet of a Bugatti with her legs like this, and just like that, and just laughing. And she had the most wonderful smile. And I looked and I thought, yeah. And then he said, there isn't actually any material, it's all disappeared. Nobody knows where she died, nobody knows where she's born. That was a challenge.
I mean, obviously, your background as a novelist does, I think, show from time to time. I thought actually particularly in the Bugatti Queen, because there are moments there when I know you can't, I mean there was very, very little information as I understand to go on. But there are moments I particularly think the first, well two actually, and the second part comes into another question. The first part is when she's waiting for the first time and experiencing a high-speed racing car. And of course she's seen nothing like it. She's in the middle of tiny, sleepy France. And you paint a picture of people waiting. It could almost be, it's almost medieval in a way. With people sitting on the side, people having ices or drinks, I don't know exactly. And suddenly the whole scene becomes, I said that when this monster roars in, you actually do feel that a whole apocalyptic change has taken place. And are you conscious of that at all?
Very much so. It was an extraordinary book to write, and that description, which I'm so glad you liked, actually comes from me going to Prescott, which is the home of the Bugatti Trust in England, and watching this very, very quiet little bit of landscape suddenly filled with, it's all Bugattis, my favourite cars, but Bugatti Royales, Bugatti Atlantiques, all of them just roaring through. And it was, as you described in the book, we all felt like the medieval villagers just going wow. The most fun part of that book was that when I'd written it and talked to a lot of my Bugatti friends, they said, well, it's fine, but you don't know enough about Bugattis. You've never driven one. You don't know how to read a Bugatti, which meant the engine. And believe you me, you are not looking at a car expert here, but I'm very good on Bugatti insides now. So they took me in hand, and I was taught how to drive a Bugatti, to take a £1 million Bugatti the day before it was sold out on the open road with, let me tell you what it's like a little bit. You've got no window, you've got no mirror to see behind you. The gears are outside the car. The engine is against your thigh, so when you get out, your leg is burnt. You can see the road through the bottom of the car. And you're trying not to remember that this is a £1 million car, and what you're going to do if the lorry coming down the open road, if you please, grazes you. It's terrifying, it's exhilarating, and I've never forgotten this moment in, I think, 2004, just jumping out of the car at the end and thinking, this is death and life right at the same time, and it's wonderful. And that's how I understood how she felt, and that's how she lived on this kind of high, but also the other side, knowing how to read the car. The Bugatti family were craftsmen and architects and artists. The brother was a wonderful sculptor, the father was a great cabinet maker, and Hellé, who also had a racehorse stud and called his car the Pure Sun, the pure thoroughbred, designed a car that was to look like architecture. When you lift the bonnet up, it's not like any other old car, it looks like cathedral pipes. It's beautiful.
Well, that thrill is very much transmitted, and I'm interested because there is a passage in the book when a journalist wants to have a go and has about sort of, I think I'd be the same, well I wouldn't focus me because I don't drive, but has to go about halfway round and has to retire, trembling face.
Yes.
But she, our queen, who has so many names that I'm not trying to replicate them here, is absolutely soaring. And I did wonder at that point which you were. I didn't see you as the trembler, but I wanted to make sure.
I think by that time I was completely under the skin of Hellé. And the very best moment of the book, which shows how completely I do get to kind of inhabit the people, or they me, was when I got invited out to Lime Rock in America, which is the racetrack that was started by Paul Newman and his racing driver friend Sam Posey. I stayed with Sam Posey and met Paul Newman, and I got to race the Bugatti on the track. And by that time, quite frankly, I was Hellé. They told me afterwards they'd let me win the race, but I didn't believe them.
Actually, in the Bugatti Queen, which was written when? 20 years ago? Roughly?
2005, something
Yeah, so
like
20,
that.
20 years ago. Quite early on, I think perhaps in one of the opening chapters, you describe some small, perhaps not damp because it was in France, but constrained room. Could be damp, yeah. Anyway, miserable lodging house. And you say, en passant, the sort of place that Jean Rhys might have lived in.
Yes.
And I was sort of brought up and thought, my goodness, so were you actually then, was there something planted then, do you think? That, or was it just...
Isn't it strange? No, I really do not know. When you say it, I can see the picture, because I took a photograph of it. And it was a room that Hellé, when she was down on her luck, her life was sort of postman's daughter, climbs the ladder, very unusually in the racing world, becomes a racing queen, loads of lovers, loads of success, and then bingo, she falls off the ladder because a jealous driver accused her of being a Gestapo agent, which she was not. And all the advertising and sponsorship went, and she was left in ruin. And that's when she was living in this dreadful room, courtesy of a charity that she danced for. It was a thing called the Turning Wheel, oddly, but it was actually dancers and chorus girls. And she'd done that before she went into cars. And she was living in this grim room, which I went into and saw at the back of the charity's premises. And it was exactly like a room that Jean Rhys would have lived in. But at that moment, the answer is no, I didn't have an idea in my head that I was ever going to write about Jean Rhys. But I must have done. But I know I didn't.